Every time that you say you want to be more confident, you're lying. Because the reason confidence keeps slipping through your fingers is not because it's something that you do not have. It's because you continue to defend the version of you that kept you safe, the version of you that learned how to belong, the version of you that decided that she was safer being smaller. And she is still deciding how far you are allowed to go because you are continuing to be loyal to a version of yourself that was never allowed to feel powerful in the first place. And she's very good at pretending that she's being responsible, but this version of you learned that belonging meant being palatable, that it meant keeping yourself small so that you were safe, agreeable, easy to keep. And that identity did not come from nowhere. It came by learning how to read a room, sensing what was acceptable, how to shrink yourself just enough to stay included. And so she learned that being less visible kept her safe, that being quieter made her easier to love, that wanting less meant losing less. So by the end of this video, you don't need to do anything differently, but I'm going to help you to see where you are unconsciously defending being loyal to the version of you who is the exact fucking opposite of the things that you want. So that you can simply notice where the version of you you've been protecting no longer needs that protection. And when that happens, all of a sudden confidence does not feel like effort. It feels like a fucking inevitability, which is what you and I both know that you want. And as you're listening to this, start to notice the part of you that already knows that confidence was never actually the issue. And so what you're actually dealing with is subconscious identity loyalty. Now, here's what that actually means about who you are, who you're being, and the kind of identity shift that makes this irrelevant, because your conscious mind wants expansion, right? It wants all of the juicy things that you have on your 2026 vision board. You want to be living life on your own terms, having the most delusional results coming into your days every single fucking day this year, but your subconscious is still protecting the version of you that learned how to stay safe. And delusional, safe don't necessarily go hand in hand. And so something in you literally tightens, it hesitates when you imagine betraying her. And so until we address that, confidence will keep feeling like something that is inconsistent, something that is just out of your grasp, that keeps slipping through your fingers because you're being loyal to a version of you who learned how to survive. And survival is not the same as the mind-fucking-blowing success that a woman like you actually wants. You're being loyal to a version of you that was never allowed to feel powerful, to the identity that made you palatable, that made you agreeable, that made you small, the version of you that learned how to belong, how to stay safe. And no one has ever told you that you are allowed to outgrow her. And here's how I know that confidence is not actually the issue that you're dealing with, because you are confident. You are confident. You're confident when you are competent. You're confident when you know the rules, when you know what to expect, when you can predict the outcomes, when you are comfortable. You're confident around very specific people, very specific environments. You are confident in rooms where there is nothing emotional at stake. And so it's not that your confidence does not exist. Let's be very fucking clear about that. The fact that you can be confident in very specific areas of your life proves that it's not the issue. But notice where your confidence also disappears, because it disappears very specifically. It disappears when being confident, or that level of confidence, might cost you approval, belonging, being liked, being chosen, being loved, being safe. And so that is not a mindset issue. That is a subconscious protection response. Because your subconscious throughout your life has learned rules like, well, when I'm quieter, I stay connected to people. When I don't take up too much space, I am safer. When I make myself easier, I don't get rejected. And so you adapted. right? And you built a life and an identity, and therefore results, relationships, jobs, satisfaction and fulfillment around those things. And you didn't call it shrinking. You called it being considerate, self-aware, emotionally intelligent. But what was really happening is that your subconscious built an entire identity around being acceptable. And it worked. Look at where it's got you. Look at all of the safety that you have had, those moments of acceptance. It kept you included, it kept you loved, and it kept you safe. But let's also be really clear about something else. Your subconscious could not give two shits about your goals. It cares about one thing. It cares about not losing love. It cares about familiarity, safety, belonging, so that it can keep you safe. And so if power, if confidence, if bigness, if boldness ever felt like it threatened the connection that you have in your life, then your system's going to choose that connection every single time. So at some point in your life, you learned that identity to keep you safe. And that identity meant be palatable, be agreeable, don't, be too much, don't risk losing that connection. So therefore, when I make myself easier, I don't get rejected. I don't risk those things. And it won't have been chosen consciously. It was installed subconsciously during those moments where being visible meant being more accepted. And now, even though you're a fully fucking grown adult, even though you are the incredible woman that you are, that identity is still running those decisions. And today, you probably don't even feel small. You probably don't feel wildly unconfident. There is a part of you, though, that feels called to this video, and pay attention to that part. Because you, as the woman that you are, feel capable. You feel self-aware. You feel like you are meant for more. You're not someone who is constantly playing into insecurity. You are not someone who is constantly self-sabotaging, but you do have those moments. Now, to the contrary, you also have moments where there is no confusion. You are so fucking clear on the things that you want. But then you imagine being seen in it. You imagine being heard in it. You imagine being perceived in it, in that want, in that bigness, in that boldness, in that fire in you, and something in you tightens. Something in you hesitates. You rewrite the message. You delay the decision. You tell yourself, I'll do it later. Maybe you turn down opportunities, dates. You soften your words. You delay the action. You tell yourself that you'll come back to it later. And if you're honest, it's not because you don't know what to do. And quite frankly, it's not because you don't trust yourself. It's because some part of you is still checking, well, if I do that, will the version of me on the other side of doing that thing, of taking the action, of getting the validation, of achieving that thing, still be accepted? So that is not self-doubt, because you know who you are. That is loyalty. This is the part of you who learned how to stay loved, tightening its freaking grip. And I want you to think of a moment when you have felt the confidence, the clarity, the certainty, the desire to move, to go after the thing. And then imagine the moment you thought about actually being seen in it. Whether it was posting to social media and then thinking about your followers growing up, and then actually thinking about what that meant for you, what that would mean about you. Think about going for the promotion, for the pay rise, and then what that would actually mean. Imagine actually being seen in it, what your coworkers would think, what your family would think. Something tightened, right? And it wasn't fear. It wasn't anxiety. It was just a very subtle pullback and a moment that you probably put down to self-doubt or like, oh, it's just a little bit scary. That is your subconscious saying, let's not ruin what we have. Because expansion to that part of you still feels like a threat to belonging. Maybe having more followers, more money, more visibility, more impact means that you are no longer relatable. And therefore your brain, even though you consciously won't be aware of it, has learned this association with more money means less love. More followers means less ability to struggle. That I'm no longer relatable, even though there's, hundreds of thousands of people that might be following me because of the things that I do, I experience, I talk about. I also am going to be more open to public scrutiny. So I can't really struggle publicly for fear that I might be judged. It's your subconscious saying, let's not ruin what we have. Because right now, if you are going through something, you can feel that fully in private. You can go through the depths of that experience and that emotion. Right now, you are still loved if you have the cap on your income that you currently have, because it means you are relatable to your friends and your family. It means you can joke around about having to move around money for your payday, to make your bills, about being scared to look at your bank account, even though you know that the version of you that you want to actually pull in and call in this year, if she had the level of wealth and income that you truly want, all shame, all judgment for yourself aside, she would have good financial literacy. She would have a good relationship with herself around money. She would be a match for that money. And so it's a case of your subconscious considering that as being a threat to what you have, because expansion to that part of you still feels like a threat to belonging. Right? And maybe you don't define as someone who is super confident. Maybe you are a bit of a self-proclaimed good girl. Maybe you are a bit of a teacher's pet, a people pleaser. And so that identity doesn't say don't be confident, right? Because the good girl probably is confident. She follows through. She is reliable. But she probably says, don't make this awkward. Or don't rock the boat. She learned at a young age that she had to be the mediator to keep everyone satisfied, to take on everyone else's stuff. So she had to be the rock. She had to be the person who people could lean on, right? So she probably says things like, well, don't make them uncomfortable. That maybe you are someone who's been on a hell of a journey in your life and you are someone who is like the healed one. Well, she probably says, well, I don't need help, that I'm still processing. I just need more time. And it sounds responsible, right? But subconsciously, it's doing the same thing. The good girl, the healed one, the strong one, it's keeping you in control. It's keeping you unexposed, and it's keeping you from needing other people, needing love, needing validation, because confidence requires visibility, or confidence that requires visibility, I should say, feels dangerous to an identity that is built on self-reliance. And let me be very clear again, this is not your fault. You will have learned this from a very young age. And right now it's just something that you continue to defend. And so those identities, don't hesitate because they are not sure. You don't hesitate because you're unsure of yourself, but because you are checking whether that version of you will still be accepted. And maybe the strong one who loves to say, I don't need help. I've got this. I'm still processing, which again sounds evolved, right? It sounds like she is the one who's got her shit together, until you realize that it keeps you from ever needing to take the risk to be seen wanting more, needing more, appearing weak. Because that feels like a threat, because you've learned something from a young age that means the strength was a protection rather than, a badge of honor. And this is where most people will get it wrong, right? When we start to try wanting to build confidence, they try to build it on top of that identity. And so you push yourself, you affirm, you hype yourself up, but you cannot outperform an identity that your subconscious is still protecting. So the good girl, you cannot just affirm your way and hype, have all of the good positive vibes behind you, because you are trying to build confidence on top of an identity that is also still trying to tiptoe around everyone else so that she doesn't lose her ability to belong. The same for the healer, the one who has done all of this inner work. You can't now continue to push yourself for fear that you lose those foundations. The same as the strong one. You cannot now just hype yourself up and go, because the minute that something potentially goes wrong because you have pushed yourself too hard, you risk looking failure in the face. That feels like an entire threat to your identity, because there is a moment where you may appear weak. You cannot outperform your identity or the identity that your subconscious is still protecting, because your subconscious doesn't care how confident you feel in theory. It cares whether the identity that it is trying to protect is being threatened. Because identities are not consciously released, they are unconsciously defended every single time. And so when you say that I want to be more confident, what your subconscious hears is, I want to risk the strategy that has kept me safe. And it's going to go, absolutely not. Think about this, right? The moment that confidence would require visibility, that it might require disappointment, letting someone down, saying no, not people pleasing, someone else's discomfort, right? Your system pulls the handbrake. And not because it hates you, but because it loves you the way that it learned how. To protect the identity that once kept you safe, that kept you in survival mode. And that is why confidence feels like it's slipping through your fingers, not because it's something you don't have, but because confidence is behavioral. But identity is structural, and you will not outperform the structure that you are still organized as a person, as a life, as your results around. And so you are not stuck because you cannot change. You are stuck because you haven't been willing to stop protecting who you were. Your identity decides what feels allowed. Your identity decides what feels dangerous. It decides what feels too much, what feels safe to want. Therefore, your results. And so until your identity shifts, confidence will always feel conditional. It will always feel situational. It will always feel inconsistent. And this is also something that's called the unconscious backdoor, right? When we decide that we want to expand consciously, this is your front door, but your subconscious identity is always going to choose the safety through the back door. And so you might wake up feeling super motivated, super clear on everything that you're going to do. Maybe you had all of these ideas as you were drifting off and you're waking up like, yeah, this is the day, I'm going to seize the day. And then by the afternoon, you are overthinking, you are rationalizing, you're pulling back, you're self-doubting that we know isn't actually self-doubt, it's protection. And it feels logical, right? Maybe you're tired. Maybe you have had a bit of a shit day. Maybe you have had someone leave a comment on a post or an email from a coworker that made you doubt yourself a little bit. And so it feels responsible not to push yourself to post something when you're in the wrong energy. It feels responsible not to go and prep for the interview when you're in the energy of like, oh, it's not really going to happen for me, which is how you know that it's identity and not fear, because identities are not consciously released. They are unconsciously defended every single time, right? And so this is why with my clients, we don't just try to convince you to be bolder, to be braver. I don't hype them up. Like, I would not have a job if it was just based on hyper motivation, because it is so short-lived. I'm not going to tell you just to go and do it. I take you back to the moment that your system learned being less is safer. That's where we change the meaning. We go and change the meaning there by updating the conscious or the subconscious rules, I should say, that were learned in that moment. Because once the identity no longer needs protection, then your confidence no longer requires as much effort as it does. It starts showing up automatically, like it has always belonged to you. Confidence starts being integrated with your identity. So it is not some add-on that you purchase at checkout to like bump your order. It is something that is already ingrained in it. It's a package deal. So listen to me carefully. Okay, you do not fix this by trying harder, by hustling, by trying to motivate your way to the top, or by being braver. And you do not fix this by staying in awareness forever. You do not fix this by being in awareness forever. This pattern collapses when the identity rule is updated at a subconscious level. When your system no longer believes that being less keeps me safe, that being small, digestible, palatable makes me accepted, therefore makes me feel like I belong. Because once that rule expires, there is nothing left to protect. And when identity no longer needs protection, confidence doesn't need building. It starts showing up automatically because those rules have changed. And this is why identity work is not just some layer inside what I do. It is the work. This is how we allow ourselves, and you get to live life on your own fucking terms by making your ceilings your brand new freaking baselines, because the things that you feel like you are fighting so hard consciously to get become literally programmed inside you internally. And so if you have been asking, well, how do I become more confident? It's the wrong question. The real question is, what identity rule is my subconscious still enforcing that no longer matches who I am now? And if you want to get clarity on this, use the identity mirror bot. I've put the link in the description. This is literally one of the best tools that I have in my arsenal that will help you to get clarity on the exact patterns, the exact identity ceilings and internal blocks that you are consistently defending that are capping your results right now, so that you can start creating visibility on this, on the identities that you are consistently defending. Because once you see that clearly, it stops being some self-improvement, self-development problem, and it becomes a whole fucking identity upgrade. You start brainwashing yourself into a literal identity and internal rebrand. And that does not need to take years. They take very specific clarity, precision, the willingness to stop defending what has expired. So go and use this bot, start getting so fucking clear, and consciously choose to stop defending the version of you that was just learning to keep you safe and to belong. And of course, if you want to explore this work with me, welcome, message me on Instagram. But as always, if you have loved this video, make sure to like, to subscribe for weekly update videos on how to expand your identity, and I will see you in the next episode.